Magberg, Germany. Archaeologists are about to open a stone tomb that hasn't been touched in 500 years. If they're lucky, it will hold the remains of Edith of England, who was the Queen of Germany more than 1,000 years ago. But even if the tomb is empty, what they find when they open the lead coffin surprises them. For starters, in Old English, her name was Egypt, which is hard to say. It has been changed to Edith. Soon we'll find out what archaeologists found in that old tomb in the beautiful Magberg Cathedral. But first, let's find out about the English woman who took over Germany in 936. Magberg, Germany. Archaeologists are about to open a stone tomb that hasn't been touched in 500 years. If they're lucky, it will hold the remains of Edith of England, who was the Queen of Germany more than 1,000 years ago. But even if the tomb is empty, what they find when they open the lead coffin surprises them. For starters, in Old English, her name was Egypt, which is hard to say. It has been changed to Edith. Soon, we'll find out what archaeologists found in that old tomb in the beautiful Magberg Cathedral. But first, let's find out about the English woman who took over Germany in 936. As a result, Edith was thrust into a new role, which she took on when she was about 25 years old. The Wessex girl was now the Queen of Germany, or East Francia. Otto the First became known as Otto the Great because he was able to continue Henry's work of uniting the different tribes of Germany. Edith had been dead for about 16 years when Otto became Holy Roman Emperor. She died in January 946 when she was in her mid-30s. We don't know much about how the queen spent her time on the German throne, but it is said that she was involved in charitable works and gave gifts to different religious institutions. Sanders Edith's reign also gave Otto a son and a daughter. Lytle was born in 930, the same year the royal couple married. He died of a fever at age 27 while invading Italy. On the other hand, Budget was born in 932 after her mother-in-law married Conrad the Red. She died in 953 when she was only 22 years old. In the Middle Ages, it was common for people to die young. Edith was first buried in the Benedictine Monastery of Saint Maurice, which she and Otto had founded in Magberg in 937. It is thought that Saint Maurice was an Egyptian Christian who fought in the Roman army. In the 3rd century, he rose to become the leader of 1,000 soldiers, and later died as a martyr because he refused to fight other Christians. The monastery was not Edith's final resting place. Her remains were moved at least 3 times before being reburied in 1510 at Magberg Cathedral, where they stayed for the next 500 years. In 2008, German archaeologists prepared to open Edith's tomb. Most people thought that Edith's tomb would be empty. Instead, researchers thought that it was likely to be a cenotaph. When they opened the stone, they found Edith's body. The Hicks sarcophagus habit, or the remains of Queen Egypt, are in the coffin. When archaeologists opened it, they were surprised to find human bones wrapped in a shroud of fine silk that had stayed in great shape. This was written about in a 2010 article for The Guardian. Michael Wood, an historian and author, said that what the researchers found in the coffin was a small, thin frame slightly bent at the knees like a child sleeping. Bones in the Middle Ages were often moved and mixed up, so it took a lot of science to prove that the remains were Edith's. The professor said that some high-tech scientific analysis would be needed to match the bones to the historical figure they were thought to belong to. Professor Kurt Alt at the University of Maine in Maine looked at the bones and could surely say that they came from one female who died between the ages of 30 and 40. This was the first place the remains went. ALT could even say that one of the thigh bones showed strong evidence that she had often ridden horses. This means that the woman was probably from the upper levels of her society, just like Edith. But it's important to note that the woman's skeleton in the Magberg lead coffin was incomplete. Scientists think that the bones from the feet, hands, and a large part of the skull may have been taken and used as relics during the Middle Ages. Magberg Cathedral made its way to the University of Bristol UC. The University of Bristol had the staff and tools to analyze the ancient remains in depth. This was true even though the fabrics found in the coffin seemed to be from the same period as Edith's. This method involved analyzing the chemical fingerprints, or isotopes, of oxygen and strontium found in all teeth. These chemical fingerprints build up over time as the dental structures grow, and the isotopes change depending on the environment and geology of the place where the dead person once lived. On the University of Bristol's website, Dr. Alastair Pike, a senior lecturer in the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, explained the science behind strontium. The results of the analysis showed that the owner of the teeth had grown up in southern England's distinctive chalklands. This was strong evidence that the person had once lived in the Wessex region, known for its chalk deposits. The focus of the research then went back to Magberg, where one of Professor Alt's researchers, Karina Nipper, looked at teeth from graves. The isotopes in the teeth that are thought to be Edith's are completely different from those in the people who live in Magberg. The University of Bristol website quotes her as saying that this person couldn't have grown up in Magberg, and the evidence from the teeth seemed to match up with what is known about Edith's childhood in Wessex. Archaeology in Bristol Mark Horton, a professor, said Edith seems to have lived in southern England for the first 8 years of her life, but she moved around a lot, which is reflected in the different strontium ratios in her teeth. Only after she turned 9 did Isidore's values stay the same. Horton said Edith must have moved around the kingdom with her father, King Edward the Elder, during his reign. In 919, when the princess was between 9 and 10 years old and her mother got a divorce, she and her mother were sent to a monastery, possibly Winchester or Wilton in Salisbury. Also, researchers explained the strange things that radiocarbon dating showed. Edith ate a lot of protein as a child, which can throw off carbon dating methods. This protein-rich diet was another sign that Edith was from an aristocratic family, but something else stood out to researchers. In Christian burials of that time, grave goods were often buried with the body, but none were found in what was thought to be Edith's grave. Thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.